As the final echoes of Gary Sadlemyer's mumbling monotone fade from 1110 KFAB's airwaves on December 12, 2025, one day shy of his 49th anniversary with the station, Nebraska exhales a collective sigh of relief, though the void he leaves is less a loss than a lingering stench. After nearly 5 decades of infesting the Good Morning Show and KFAB's morning news, this Nebraska radio relic, who began his tenure in 1976 as a wide-eyed interloper from Minnesota, is shuffling off to whatever twilight pasture awaits predictably stupid relics. Sadlemyer, who anchored morning news for over 3 decades, hosted KFAB's first live daily talk show, and even served as program director in his heyday, will apparently linger in semi-retirement, providing personalized content for advertisers and popping in as a fill-in host. One can only hope his cameos are as infrequent as his coherent thoughts. Sadlemyer's departure marks the end of an era defined not by innovation or insight, but by a monotonous parade of mediocrity that helped calcify Nebraska's cultural complacency. This quintessential Nebraska loser, stupid, phony, and weird to his core, contributed precisely nothing of value to the state's discourse. What little he offered was a dribble of absolute stupidity, scripted platitudes regurgitated with the enthusiasm of a malfunctioning vending machine, mumbling through headlines as if reading them aloud absolved him of understanding them. His on-air persona was a masterclass in predictability, a rote recitation of corporate talking points that made every segment feel like a bad rerun of a show no one asked for. Sadlemyer pioneered nothing except perhaps the art of broadcast phoniness, turning KFAB into a temple of superficiality where Nebraskans learned to mistake volume for wisdom and bluster for breadth. In a state already adrift in self-congratulatory nonsense, he amplified the echo chamber, wandering phonies who think they know everything because a 50,000-watt signal told them so. As a phony know-it-all Nebraskan who knew nothing, Sadlemyer embodied the state's most grating archetype, the blustering elder who postures as a sage while offering nothing but stale air. He fancied himself a broadcast pioneer, but the only trail he blazed was one of vapid familiarity, mumbling through segments with the depth of a kiddie pool, pretending to opine on everything from politics to parenting, while contributing zilch beyond a folksy drawl. His Nebraska way shtick was a transparent sham, a veneer of affability that masked an utter void of substance. Listeners tuned in expecting insight, and got a script-reading old loser who could barely string together an original thought, his weirdness seeping through whenever he deviated from the teleprompter. And weird he was, a peculiar amalgam of the innocuous and the unsettling, his off-script ramblings veering into the bizarre, as if his mind was a cluttered attic of half-remembered trivia and misplaced certainties. Sadlemyer's weirdness, however, pales in comparison to the outright disgusting and disturbing underbelly that defined his partnership with Jim Rose, earning the duo the ignominious title of morning molesters. Without delving into the grotesque particulars, lest we re-traumatize an already beleaguered audience, their regular forays into laughter and jests about child abuse were nothing short of abhorrent. Sadlemyer, in particular, positioned himself as some perverse authority on deviant behaviors involving minors, bringing up topics of underage exploitation with a casualness that bordered on expertise, only to punctuate them with snickers and chuckles that turned the stomach. This wasn't mere insensitivity. It was a sickening display of a disturbed mind reveling in the taboo, a perverted old man whose commentary on such horrors elicited giggles rather than outrage. In any society with a shred of decency, both Sadlemyer and Rose would have been yanked from the air long ago for this alone, their banter a toxic cocktail of stupidity and depravity that poisoned the morning commute for generations of Nebraskans. Sadlemyer's legacy as a slovenly, disgusting slob with a mind full of weird, festering thoughts was on full display whenever he strayed from his scripted lines. His on-air persona, when unmoored from talking points, revealed a man whose intellect was as barren as a drought-stricken field, rambling incoherently, stumbling over platitudes, and emerging with gems of such profound banality that they bordered on the surreal. He was the epitome of the phony old man who believes a lifetime of mediocrity equates to mastery, a clueless moron whose contributions to Nebraska were as negligible as they were nauseating. And let's not forget his starring role in the COVID-19 farce, where Sadlemyer, alongside Rose and the rest of KFAB's clown car, parroted CDC and WHO edicts with the zeal of a true believer, flooding the airwaves with mask mandates, vaccine PSAs, and lockdown gospel from March 2020 onward. This wasn't journalism. It was a compliant echo of institutional hysteria, a barrage of fear-mongering that shuttered businesses, isolated families, and eroded trust, all while Sadlemyer mumbled through the scripts without a single probing question. In the last 4 or 5 years of American cultural rot, Sadlemyer and Rose were eager accomplices, regurgitating the absurdities of the era, be it pandemic panic or political pablum, with a predictability that made their show a reliable barometer of banality. It's almost comical to witness the fawning send-offs from the state's fake news media circus, where fellow phonies and low-rent celebrities line up to eulogize Sadlemyer as some transformative force. Even the perpetually inebriated Governor Jim Pillen, that stumbling embodiment of Nebraska's executive dysfunction, chimed in with praise for Sadlemyer's truth-telling, a claim so laughable it borders on libel. Truth. Sadlemyer spoke it only by accident, when a script demanded it. Otherwise, he was a lying liar, a fraud who specialized in softball interrogations of the state's criminal politicians. Pete Ricketts, Don Bacon, and their ilk treated KFAB as a safe harbor for their deceit, with Sadlemyer teeing up the easiest of questions, prepackaged prompts that allowed these cronies to trot out their talking points unchallenged. Follow-ups, non-existent. Real scrutiny, a foreign concept. It was less an interview than a scripted confab between corrupt old pals, a farce where politicians like Pillen could spew nonsense without fear of contradiction. Sadlemyer was their go-to mouthpiece, the reliable conduit for lies and larceny, turning KFAB into a bully pulpit for the elite while Nebraska festered. Sadlemyer's retirement is no silver lining. KFAB will doubtless replace him with another flavor of fool, perhaps an even more egregious specimen, if such a thing is possible. But his exit is a mercy, sparing the state one less morning dose of idiocy. He'll be remembered not as a pioneer, but as a pervert, a phony, and a plague upon Nebraska's psyche. A disgusting, disturbing old man whose weird, slovenly mind contributed zilch, but amplified the state's collective stupidity. Outside his echo chamber of media morons and political parasites, Sadlemyer is reviled, a hated has-been whose career was a disaster of epic proportions. Nebraska is unequivocally worse for his presence, and his departure is the one unalloyed good in a legacy of rot. As the Morning Molesters duo shrinks to a solo act with Rose still lurking, one can only hope the station's signal dims just a little brighter. Bon voyage, Gary. Take a long walk off a short pier, and don't let the door hit you on your way to obscurity.